are you ladies gossiping about? You're taking notes on this, right? You should smile more. Hey, is it that time of the month? This meeting is a big deal. You might want to wear your hair down for this one. Calm down, you're being way too overdramatic about this. No, honey, that's where the executive offices are. Interns go downstairs. These phrases that run the gamut from well-meaning but poorly worded to intentional dismissal of a woman's ability are a daily occurrence in our lives defined as microaggressions, the death by 1,000 cuts. As reported by the study published by Women in the Workplace, 64% of women experience microaggressions on a daily basis, discouraging career goals and leading to physical and mental harms. Only by first recognizing these statements as a form of structural violence and then acknowledging our own role in propagating these microaggressions can we finally move towards creating a more inclusive space for all. Sexism permeates every aspect of our culture, and when these microaggressions are present in a form that has become palpable to us all, it becomes even more difficult to identify it and call it out. We've all seen the classic Valley Girl accent play out in pop culture. Brittany from Daria, Cher from Clueless, and most of the main female characters in Heathers all share the hallmark quavering voice that peaks up in intonation at the end of the sentence. This phenomenon is actually something that speech pathologists refer to as uptalk. As explained by a study conducted by the University of California, uptalk actually dates all the way back to the 1950s and originated as a way for the speaker to hold their ground while they're talking. Graduate student Amanda Reichhart explains that by placing emphasis on the end of the sentence, women use a technique called floor holding, where an interruption is anticipated and then held off because of the intonation. Women are more likely to use uptalk because they're more likely to be interrupted in professional settings. However, cultural perceptions have overlooked these complexities, and now, uptalk is seen as something that's a signal of a shallow girl with low intelligence. This personality judgment of women extends into professional settings as well. Susan Fleming, senior lecturer at Cornell, describes how women are placed into a double bind when they work in professional settings. If women have a more feminine leadership style that focuses on communal and gentle traits, their peers are more likely to see them as weak. On the other hand, when women take on masculine leadership traits, they are seen as overbearing and bossy, when those exact same actions would be praised in male leaders. This trend of capable and intelligent women being looked down upon continues through mansplaining. Present everywhere from the classroom to Twitter, mansplaining has only become a common term in the late 2000s, despite being present for the duration of the patriarchy. Kate Mann, author of the book entitled, explains that numerous societal components all work together and have made mansplaining a mainstay in today's society. The first is the assumption made on the part of the man that the woman doesn't know as much as he does. This works in tandem with the socialization men have undergone to feel as if they are the most powerful in the dynamic at all times, and the pressures women feel to be polite and avoid interrupting. The term himpathy describes women's reluctance to call out mansplaining, even if they are experts on the subject, due to conditioning that creates feelings of guilt upon producing shame in men who are wrong. Mansplaining furthers the societal perception of males as those who are the wisest and most capable, and continues the degradation of women's intelligence worldwide. When motifs of sexism are present throughout society, internalized misogyny becomes commonplace and places more undue pressure upon women. There are two key impacts that construct internalized misogyny: self-objectification and the acceptance of gender roles. According to Utah State University, these impacts can cause distress, identity foreclosure, disordered eating, and mental illness. The idea that women can avoid the impacts of sexism if they conform to societal standards causes a turn towards harsh beauty standards and a forced perception of other women as competition. Allowing for sexism to go unnoticed when it isn't overt creates harsh impacts on all genders that go unnoticed and become the new status quo. When women are subjected to misogyny on a daily basis, the physical and emotional impacts are devastating. For starters, negative stereotyping harms women's careers by making them less likely to join traditionally male-dominated fields, and less likely to be offered leadership positions across all jobs. Research from Psychology of Women Quarterly found that experiences of sexism shared similar symptoms to PTSD and made women more likely to turn to binge drinking and smoking. Double standards and societal stereotypes make the chances of mental illness due to sexism higher. And sexism that seems indirect leads directly to real-world violence against women. Because according to the University of Sussex, sexism directly contributes to rape culture and makes violence against women seem more excusable. But these impacts go beyond the individual scale and manifest themselves on international and global stages. In the United States, this is seen through the lack of female representation in politics. The Democratic primaries this year had one of the most diverse candidate pools seen in recent years. But despite Democrats priding themselves on progressive ideas toward gender, a Washington Post analysis revealed that covert sexism was still a driving factor in candidate selection. Utilizing a scale of hostile sexism, the study placed primary voters into 4 categories, ranging from least to most sexist. Then, votes were broken down and analyzed within each quartile. Elizabeth Warren, the top female candidate, was neck and neck with Biden for votes when analyzed in the least sexist quartile. However, this percentage of votes dropped by an astounding 30% when the most sexist quartile was analyzed. Additionally, a Utah State University study found that women who experienced higher levels of sexism were more likely to support candidates who promoted sexist ideals when voting. These factors both act as barriers to us having a representative government, and the world suffers for it. Numerous studies have noted that women becoming involved in discussions with peace have led to better outcomes consistently, but only 9% of negotiators in the UN peace processes have been women. When women are excluded from the peace process, issues that impact marginalized groups are ignored or swept under the rug entirely, and it becomes more difficult for sustainable solutions to get created. Yet women are still continuously left out of the discussion. The most difficult thing about addressing everyday sexism is that it seems normal to us all. But by training ourselves to call out ourselves and others when we feed into sexist actions, it becomes easier to break down the barriers women face, step by step. Asking the perpetrator questions that call for clarification or explanation of the harm in their actions is a way to resolve conflict without making the other person feel like they're under attack, thus causing them to be more open to changing their behaviors and educating themselves on the harms that microaggressions hold. For women, coping with internalized sexism can involve reaching out to a mental health professional or beginning to break down the idealized version of a woman that society has constructed. These small actions may not feel life-changing, but they eventually lead to tangible changes in the lives of women everywhere. Microaggressions are not overt, but it's still important that we recognize the impact they have on women in society and seek to eradicate them.